Hi. Welcome to Lily's Story channel. If you like my channel, please like and subscribe. Now the story begins. I was abandoned by my husband and I nearly died in Leafshire on my own. Think of me, I helped poor, downtrodden Frank get his foot in the door, and he promised to be faithful to me alone for the rest of his life. 5 years of marriage and he does this to me just because I scratched his mistress's face. My last call for help was disconnected by him. He said he wanted this to be used to change his temper and for me to recognize my place. I returned covered in bruises and had worn out my temper. I want a divorce and he regrets it. I was determined to end my 5-year marriage, abandoned by my husband in Leafshire. I nearly didn't survive, could still recall crawling out of a chicken coop, covered in feathers and feces, emitting a foul stench. A broken plastic bucket was perched on my head, dripping an unknown viscous liquid down my hair, clutched a dark indistinct object stolen from the coop, my food for the day, which I had wrestled away from the chickens. Refusing to let go of the black object, I stuffed it more forcefully into my mouth, staring blankly at the well-dressed man before me, was visibly shocked by my appearance. Taking a deep breath, he maintained a polite smile despite his discomfort. Mrs. Lambert. Mr. Lambert has sent me to bring you back home. I let out a self-deprecating laugh. Mrs. Lambert, did I still deserve that title? I clumsily wiped my face with the back of my hand, smearing chicken feces and dirt, further adding to my disheveled state. I took a half-hour shower in the airport bathroom to make myself look somewhat human again, staring at the emaciated, scarred woman in the mirror. I could hardly believe this was once the pampered daughter of the Carr family. Ruth? The voice that suddenly rang out behind me made me shudder. Stiffly turned around to face Nathan, whom I had once despised. His eyes were filled with disbelief. Perhaps it was because he didn't expect the once glamorous Miss Carr to have fallen so far. I desperately wanted to flee but was rooted to the spot by his next words. I heard Frank. I sharply raised my head, cutting him off. Don't speak. He looked at me, about to say more but ultimately remained silent. I boarded the plane home as if fleeing, but I felt as if my heart was being tightly grasped by an invisible hand, unable to breathe. Upon landing, the chauffeur respectfully took me to Frank's mansion. Looking at the luxurious villa, I felt an overwhelming sense of irony. Every brick and tile was steeped in my parents' hard work. Mrs. Lambert, please take a rest. Mr. Lambert will be back tonight, the chauffeur said respectfully. I nodded blankly and walked into the villa. The empty living room and luxurious furniture constantly reminded me that this was no longer my home. I collapsed weakly onto the sofa, tears silently falling. Frank, what do you really think of me? I wondered. I wandered like a ghost through the rooms once filled with laughter and joy. Every plant and tree here had been a witness to our love. Now they had become the prison that confined me. A series of light footsteps suddenly came from the stairs, breaking the silence of the room. Suddenly looked up. There was Sally, wearing my once favorite silk nightgown, walking out of my bedroom. Her face bore the smile of a victor. Each step she took seemed to tread on my heart, causing me unbearable pain. Well, is it Mrs. Lambert? She sneered mockingly, her tone dripping with sarcasm. What, turn over a new leaf? I bit my lip hard, saying nothing. Once, I would have attacked her without hesitation, making her pay for her actions, but now, I couldn't. I didn't want Frank to throw me back into that dark place. Why aren't you talking? Seeing my silence, Sally became even more arrogant. Have you been in Leafshire so long that you've forgotten how to speak? I took a deep breath, afraid to look up at her triumphant face. What do you want? What do I want? Sally laughed as if she had heard a funny joke. I want you to kneel and beg me to make Frank forgive you and not throw you out of the country again. My body shook violently, disbelievingly staring at her. She actually wanted me to kneel to her? Unwilling? As she saw my hesitation, Sally's expression darkened. Don't forget everything you have now is because of Frank. With just one word from me, he can take it all back. I clenched my fists so tightly that my nails were embedded deep in my flesh, but I couldn't feel a single ounce of pain. I knew that she was telling the truth. Now I am no longer the high and mighty Miss Carr family. I'm just a woman who was abandoned by her husband and left to be bullied. I closed my eyes weakly as 2 lines of tears slid down the corners of my eyes, then, to Sally's shocked gaze, I slowly bent my knees. The moment his knee touched the cold floor, the door opened. Frank's tall figure appeared in the doorway. He was stunned for a moment. Eyes moved back and forth between Sally and I, finally settling on me with a complex, indistinguishable look. "Ruth, it seems you went abroad to reflect well." He let out a soft laugh, his tone inaudible. The word "foreign" stabbed me like a needle. The body shuddered instinctively. Those days and nights in Leafshire came like a tidal wave, dragging me back into that dark abyss. Not having enough to eat or wear and sleeping on the streets is the norm. Even had to fight wild dogs for a piece of moldy bread. With no language and no family, I was like a beggar on the edge of life and death. Even scarier were the unsuspecting glances. They were like wild animals that smelled blood, ready to tear me apart. Never forget that night when a group of refugees surrounded me. Dirty hands ripped at my clothes and I fought back desperately, but to no avail. In desperation, I touched a piece of broken glass on the floor. Slash hard at your own wrist. Blood instantly stained my arm. "Don't come over, come any closer and I'll die," I shouted at the top of my lungs, my voice hoarse with desperation. Perhaps intimidated by my determination, they eventually backed off. Was able to get away with it. But the scar stayed on my wrist forever, like a centipede, hideous. A constant reminder of that unforgiving past, and it's all thanks to him. I snapped my head up and looked straight at him, the hatred in my eyes almost consuming him. "Ruth, what's that look in your eye? Don't you know what's wrong?" Frank saw the indignant look in my eyes, and his tone turned suddenly cold, like a frozen blade. "If you don't know, get the hell out of the country immediately and come back here to die," he warned sternly. I was instantly deflated, like a poked balloon. All the anger and hatred turned into powerlessness. I dropped to my knees on the cold floor and kowtowed to Sally. One at a time, what was once pride and self-respect was now crushed to powder. I was wrong, I'm sorry, please don't send me abroad again," I begged incoherently, my voice quivering with a heavy nasal tone. Sally took Frank's arm, pouted, and looked at me condescendingly, like looking at a lowly mole cricket. Scarlet blood nosed from hick forehead like a demonic flower on the other side, it stung my eyes. It was as if I saw the same stubbornness that kept him from sending me away 6 months ago. At that point, he said, "I just want you to calm down and think about what you did wrong. You're so jealous, and don't you forget that the Carr family is broke and your parents jumped to their deaths. You're not the star-struck young lady anymore. Now," he said, "Ruth, recognize your place in the future and don't ask questions you shouldn't, or next time it won't be sending you overseas." I nodded flabbergastedly, numb to his judgment, like a puppet on strings, at the mercy of others. I watched as the two of them walked like glue into the bedroom that was once mine, backstabbing. Like a sharp blade, it tore what was left of my dignity to shreds. Once, it was our love nest, but now, it's a painful memory for me. From the bedroom came an unspoken like a rusty knife, scraping my eardrums and lynching my heart. One at a time I listened numbly, tears sliding silently down my cheeks. I tea-pooled into a small puddle on the cold floor. How proud I was once. For Frank, the poor boy from the mountains. I broke with my parents, broke with my family, and even gave up my right to inherit the family business. I thought we were in true love. I thought he would cherish me forever. "Frank, why did you marry me in the first place?" "Because of love." The way he swore in the beginning came to mind. There was a deep love in the corner of his eyes. Love? I laughed to myself as the tears welled up more and more. This is love, it's ridiculous. As his career flourished, he came home less and less. The women around him have changed in waves, and me, from the high and mighty Miss Thousand. He has become a yellow woman in his eyes, a bad wife who has abandoned him. I couldn't stand it and messed with him over and over again. In return, he intensified his coldness and disgust. Until the time I scratched the face of his favorite little canary and he completely exploded, dropped me off in Leafshire, the middle of nowhere. It's called sharpening my temperament. Frank, you're so mean. I closed my eyes and let the tears rage. I hated his desperation, and I hated my own stupidity even more. If I could turn back time, I would never have fallen in love with him, definitely not. Sally appeared at the second-floor stairway dragging her freshly graced body. The corner of her eyes were full of insatiable flavor. "Ruth, please make me a bowl of hot soup and send it up. I'm so tired and thirsty, hurry up oh." Her petulant voice sounded like she was ordering a lowly servant. I clenched my fists, my nails sinking deep into my flesh. The pain in my palms is but 1,000,000 times less than the heartbreak of this moment. Once upon a time, I was the celebrity dame who didn't have to do housework. And now, it is reduced to serving her husband's mistress. I shuddered and dragged my body through 1,000 holes. Moving to the kitchen, I mechanically did the chores I once loathed the most. The kitchen was heavy with water vapor, blurring my vision and my memory. I thought I saw that youthful teenager, holding a true heart, making a vow of love to me. "Ruth, I will be good to you for the rest of your life and make you the happiest woman you can be." Now the oath is still fresh in our ears, but the man is no longer the same. I carried the soup and walked up the stairs, one step at a time, each step like stepping on the tip of a knife, drilling pain into my heart. "Come in." Sally's voice was lazy and casual, with a hint of undisguised smugness. I pushed open the door to a blinding sight. Frank wrapped his arms tenderly around Sally, his large hands gently stroking her long hair. The pampering in his eyes was like nothing I'd ever felt before. My heart, as if clutched hard by an invisible hand, could hardly breathe. "Put it on the nightstand, Frank, I'm so tired. Can you press it for me?" Sally's sappy voice was like a sharp blade, lancing my heart one at a time. I put the soup down and turned to escape the place that was suffocating me. "Wait." Frank's voice, as cold as ever, carried an unquestionable command. "You press for her." I looked up incredulously at the familiar yet strange man in front of me. How dare he ask me, his wife, to serve his mistress? "Frank, I want you to do it." Sally pouted in displeasure, but deliberately bumped Frank's arm in an affectionate gesture. Frank didn't say anything, just looked at me coldly with a warning and threat in his eyes. I knew that I didn't have a choice. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath, suppressing the emotions that were churning inside me, and walked over to the bed. My hand, trembling, landed on Sally's shoulder. There was a time when I longed to be this gentle with my beloved. And now my tenderness is only humbly bestowed on a woman who stole my husband. Well, the force is more focused. Sally squinted comfortably, enjoying my service as if I was born to it. My hand, tightening a little, my nails almost embedded in her flesh. How I wanted, just to pinch down hard enough to make her taste the pain I was enduring as well. But I can't. I don't even have a final way back alone, and I don't even know how I'm going to live. "Okay, Ruth, you're out." Sally waved her hand impatiently, like she was shooing away a pesky fly. I turned stiffly, each step aching as if I were stepping on red-hot coals. I closed the bedroom door softly. The heart aches so much it can't breathe. I leaned against the cold wall, trying to control my trembling body. "Frank, why did you let her back in?" Sally's pouting voice came through the doorway with a hint of resentment and jealousy. "When are you going to divorce her? I don't want our child to be called illegitimate as soon as it's born." Sally's voice was getting lower and lower, but it was like a thunderbolt that exploded in my ears. "A baby? They even have a baby?" I was so shocked that I could hardly think, and the blood in my body seemed to freeze in an instant, cold and piercing. At one time, Frank also promised with all his heart that he would have a lovely child with me. A happy family of 3. And now that promise has turned into a cruel mockery of me. "Let's talk about it later, no more divorce talk." Frankie's impatient voice without a hint of hesitatic. I smiled bitterly. It turns out that in his mind, I don't even deserve to mention the word divorce. Thought that Frank at least had a shred of conjugal love for me. Even if it's a falsehood, it's enough to keep me fooling myself, but I was wrong, dead wrong. "Frank, you're so hard-hearted." I covered my chest as a ripping pain came from there, as if it was going to consume me whole. I slid helplessly to the floor, tears blurring my eyes and my heart. In the corner, I curled up and drifted off to sleep. Dreams are full of the promises Frank once made, those sweet vows now gnawing at my heart like a viper. Ah! A scream cut through the silence and I jerked awake. Sally pales, covers her stomach, and looks at me in horror, rubbed my sore shoulders and just tried to get up. But then she slipped and rolled straight down the stairs. Bright red blood instantly stained the white floor in a shocking manner. I panicked and got up without thinking, stumbling towards her. "Sally." I reached out to help her up, but was pushed away hard by Frank, who rushed out. There was a thud, and my wrist hit the step hard. The drilling pain made me black out. "Ruth, if you want to fucking die, just say so, and I'm telling you, if anything happens to Sally and the baby, I'm going to make you pay for it." Frank's voice was cold and piercing, without a trace of warmth. With Sally in his arms, he brushed past me and rushed out of the villa and towards the hospital. I sat paralyzed on the floor, my eyes blurred with tears. I really didn't. Why won't he believe me? The sharp pain in my wrist made it almost impossible for me to breathe. I struggled to my feet and limped down the road. Despair and helplessness overwhelmed me like a tidal wave. A black sedan pulls up in front of me and the window slowly lowers to reveal Nathan's worried face. "Get in the car," he said, only 2 words, not to be trifled with. I shook my head, my voice hoarse. "No, I can do it myself." He opened the car door straight away and dragged me into the car without a second thought. Then with a kick of the gas, the car headed in the direction of the hospital. I leaned back helplessly in my chair and let the tears flow freely. At one time I was the little princess who was held in the palm of my hand, and now I've been reduced to this. The pungent smell of disinfectant water fills my nose, pulling me back from the chaos. "What's going on? What the hell have you been through? Why would the doctor say that the tendons in your wrist have?" Nathan's voice trembled with suppressed anger and heartache. I close my eyes and the burning leaf's higher sun, the rough twine, the desperate struggle, a scene etched in my mind like a brand. "I'm fine." I spoke feebly, my voice hoarse as a broken bellows. "Ruth, what the hell is wrong with you?" Nathan grabbed my shoulders with such force that he almost crushed my bones. I cringed in pain, but stubbornly refused to shed a tear. At one time, I was also a golden girl with 10 fingers. And now it's being tortured to the point of being inhuman. "You let her go." Frank's icy voice rang out from the doorway with undeniable authority. He walked quickly to me and pulled me out of Nathan's arms as soon as he could, confining me tightly in his own. "Frank, let go, you're hurting me." I struggled, but he held me tighter. "Ruth, come home with me." His voice was low and husky, but he couldn't hide the strength in his tone. "Home? Is that home? That's hell." I snarled as the tears finally broke. "Come home with me first, we'll talk about it at home. She's fine, I won't blame you." Frank's tone softened with a hint of supplication. I sneered at how ironic the once sweet words now sounded. "Frank, let's get a divorce." I said the words calmly, in a firm tone, without a hint of hesitation. Frank's body jerked and he looked at me incredulously. "What did you say?" "I say we get a divorce." I looked straight at him and repeated it word for word. "No way." Frank roars like an enraged lion. "Ruth, who are you to say divorce?" Enough." I interrupted him. "Frank, from the moment you dropped me off in Leaf's Hire, it was over between us." Pushed him away as hard as I could and turned to leave without looking back. Nathan looked at me worriedly, wanting to say something. I shook my head at him, signaling that I was fine. "I'm getting out of here, out of this place that scarred me. I'm going to start over and live for myself." Nathan's presence was like a thorn in Frank's eye. He always followed a few paces behind me, in step like a loyal but unwelcome shadow. "Ruth, if you promise to come home, everything that's happened before is written off, okay?" He lowered his stance, a prayer in his tone. I don't want to ignore him, much less care to. Instead, he pulled me into the car with one hand, pressed the gas pedal to the floor, and the car sprinted off like an arrow off a string. To return to the home that was once ours, but is now so foreign to me, he threw me on the bed and roughly tore at my clothes. I was terrified, and the fear that I had once almost been violated by a refugee in Leaf's Hire came back to haunt me. I struggled desperately, but to no avail. "No, no, oh please, no." I cried out helplessly as the horrible images flashed through my mind. I grabbed the ashtray at the foot of the bed and tried to strike him a fatal blow, only to be stopped by Frank's quick eyes. He tightened his grip on my wrist with a force that seemed to crush my bones. "Ruth, do you hate me that much?" His voice was hoarse with a hint of pain. I cringed in pain, grimacing and sweating coldly. It was then that he noticed the shocking scar on my wrist, like a centipede hideously coiled. "Ruth, what's wrong with you? What's the matter with you? Such a long scar on your wrist, what happened?" He finally panicked, his tone full of incredulity and horror. I sneered, "Yeah," and he had the nerve to ask what was going on. "Frank, this is all thanks to you. Have you forgotten? You're the one who had me dumped in Leafshire." I yelled hysterically, each word piercing his heart like a sharp knife. "Have you forgotten that last call I made to you? I almost got raped, didn't you? You hung up and let me reflect." My voice trembled as tears blurred my vision. "Frank, I hate you. Do you know how I got here? I grabbed food from the animals every day. I often had no place to sleep. I was bullied for not speaking the language. They beat me all the time. What gives you the right to write it off with a sorry? I want a divorce, Frank. If you have an ounce of quilt left, get a divorce." I hissed, each word as if it had been squeezed hard from my chest with a bloody accusation. "Divorce, Ruth, you're dreaming." Frank's face instantly turned blue, his eyes glazed over like he was trying to tear me apart. He clamped down hard on my jaw and gritted his teeth. "Who do you think you are? You can get a divorce whenever you want. I'm telling you, you'll never be able to escape me in this life." The sharp pain cleared my head for a few moments, and I looked at him coldly, sarcasm in my eyes. "Frank, do you think you're still the same poor boy that I could take advantage of? You're not anymore. You've turned into a total demon. I became a devil because of you." Frank snarled, the anger in his eyes almost consuming me. As soon as he dumped me on the bed, he towered over me. Word for word, "Ruth, listen to me. You will never leave me in this life, not until I'm dead. I didn't realize you went through so many bad things abroad. I'm sorry." I closed my eyes in despair and let the tears flow freely. At one time I was the little princess held in the palm of everyone's hand. And now, like a lost dog, I was mercilessly abandoned by him and left to be trampled on, all thanks to him. Frank had me imprisoned in the villa and his cell phone confiscated. Thought I was spending my days in the dark. Until I die of old age, no one will know what happened to me. But I didn't expect Nathan to lead the way and open the gate to the villa. His eyes instantly reddened as he looked at the inhuman me. As soon as he did, he hugged me tightly, like he had found something most precious, carefully, but with unspeakable heartache. "Ruth." His voice carried a hint of a tremor. Instead, I heard endless sadness and pity in his raspy voice. I was taken away from that cold cage by him and placed in what used to be one of my favorite lakefront townhouses as a student. Warm sunlight poured into the room through the floor-to-ceiling windows, but I couldn't feel a trace of warmth. Nathan personally cooked for me and got me treatment from my family doctor. He cooked all of my favorite meals from my student days. But today, these familiar flavors are so foreign to me, have a serious psychological shadow. He patiently opened up to me every day, had a psychiatrist day in and day out, and also got a nutritionist to take care of my 3 meals a day. He took care of me in every way. It was as if I was a fragile porcelain doll that needed his careful attention. Finally, I'm in better spirits. "Why are you helping me?" I looked at the man in front of me who had done everything for me with mixed feelings. "Because I can't see you living in such pain." Nathan's eyes were gentle and determined, like a deep pool to suck me in. "Can you get me a lawyer? I want a divorce." I looked away, afraid to look him in the eye. "Don't worry, Frank recently had problems with his company, competing with us for projects. He can't take care of you yet. You get well, and I'll have my lawyer take care of the divorce for you." Nathan's tone was calm and unruffled, but carried an undeniable firmness. Was so grateful I didn't know how to thank him. He's gone, and I can't help but think of him in my mind. All these years, he's been behind me, silently watching over me. It wasn't until I turned him down and married Frank that he disappeared from my world completely. But such a good man was given up by my own hand, and my heart, like a pinprick, ached. Nathan moved quickly and handed those papers to the attorney. I looked at the terms of the divorce papers and it was as if I saw the light of freedom. Frank was too wrapped up in company business and too burnt out to care about me. Once upon a time, he held me in his hands. Now, I am left to be trampled and forgotten. Sally asked me to meet him and said he knew how my parents died. My parents' deaths have always been a knot in my heart. You want to know the real reason your parents died? I can tell you, but you have to promise me that you'll get Frank to agree to a divorce. Sally's eyes were calculating. I clenched my fists. Was there something else to my parents' death? When Nathan found out, he immediately stopped me. Don't go, it's too dangerous, and Sally's word can't be trusted. But I want to know the truth. I want to know how my parents really died. I grabbed Nathan's hand excitedly. Nathan held me tightly in his arms. Ruth, trust me, I'll find out everything and I'll keep you safe too. His embrace, of warm and strong, gave me a great sense of security. I nodded, promising him I wouldn't do anything rash. I know that Nathan will keep his word. He'll get to the bottom of it for me, and he'll get me out of this nightmare. Nathan's face pales as he hands me a document. Ruth, I found out. I took the paper with a trembling hand. Opened word for word like a sharp blade, pinning me to the pillar of shame. Frank, how could he? I mumbled, my eyes going black. On the document, there was proof of how Frank had counted my parents' company back then. Step by step, ruthless. My parents couldn't take such a blow and eventually chose to jump, and I, for one, became the only survivor of this conspiracy. But also imprisoned by him in the prison called love. How can he? I covered my chest as tears broke out. Nathan held me tightly in his arms. His arms are the only thing I have to rely on at the moment. Ruth, you still have me. His voice was low with heartache and pity. I clutched at his lapels and let my tears soak his shirt. The heart was in its throat as the loving smiles of my parents kept replaying in my mind. Hated Frank's viciousness, hated my own stupidity. Sally Shelt made the divorce proceedings go surprisingly smoothly. I looked at the bright red divorce papers with mixed feelings. Frank stood across from me, eyes red, and tried to take my hand. Ruth, I was wrong. Please give me another chance. I can't live without you. I looked at him coldly as I shook off his hand. Frank, do you regret it too? He froze, his eyes filled with disbelief and panic. Do you regret that you killed my parents for profit? I took a step closer to him, my voice cold and piercing. What are you talking about? Frank blanched and took a panicked step back. Frank. I looked straight into his horrified eyes and said, word for word, time to settle my parents' score with you. The bright red divorce papers lay on the table, stinging like hell. I got my share of everything that belonged to me. The villa, the real estate, every bit of it was a record of my parents' efforts. I knelt at my parents' graves, my eyes blurred with tears. Dad, Mom, I'm sorry, my daughter was wrong. Ruth, take this information, it might be useful. Nathan handed me a document. I looked through it, and inside were details of Frank's company, financial statements, project contracts, everything. I looked up at him in surprise. I know what you're trying to do. Nathan interrupted me. Ruth, you were never a canary, you just gave up soaring for love. His words, like a key, unlocked dusty memories. I was once a proud daughter of God. I gave up the family business, I gave up school, I gave up everything for Frank, and now, I'm going to take back everything I've lost, little by little. I dove headfirst into my study and wasted no time in studying the information. The knowledge once given up for Frank is now a blade of vengeance. Frank's company, in my eyes, is full of holes. Nathan, register a company for me, out of the country. A cold light flashed in my eyes. Good, Nathan agreed without hesitation. A month later, an overseas company called Phoenix emerged and quickly made its mark in the industry. Frank's company had a broken capital chain and desperately needed an infusion of capital for new projects. The olive branch from Phoenix was his only saving grace. Frank would never have guessed that the Phoenix. It would be a cage built by his own hands. At the negotiating table, Frank is in high spirits, oblivious to the approaching danger. Mr. Lambert, good cooperation. The agent raised his glass, the corner of his mouth curling into an imperceptible sneer. Frank drinks it all in one go, not realizing that what he's drinking is poison. Phoenix program, step by step, drags Frank's company into the abyss. Frank is burnt out and can't do anything about it. I stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city without a ripple in my mind. Frank, this is just the beginning. I muttered, the fire of vengeance flickering in my eyes. Soon the program began to have all sorts of problems. With a broken capital chain and partners pulling out, Frank's empire is on shaky ground, began to drink heavily and locked himself up all day in the villa we once shared. Muttering my name over and over again under his breath, saying he was sorry for me, saying he regretted it. Sally's about to give birth, and she can't stand the thought of Frank calling my name day after day. Hysterically questioning him, you still love her, don't you? You still think about her, don't you? The alcohol paralyzed Frank's nerves as he swatted Sally away, roaring. He said, get out, leave me alone. Sally stumbled back as she was pushed, her stomach hitting the corner of the table. The intense pain made her black out and blood ran down her leg. In the hospital, Sally loses her baby and is forever disqualified from motherhood. She was in pain and hissed hysterically at Frank. I want compensation, I want money, you've ruined my whole life. Frank, however, just sits disheveled in his chair, his eyes empty, as if he's lost his soul. He began frequenting the outside of the lake house, praying for my forgiveness. Ruth, I know it's wrong, please give me another chance, I can't live without you. He repeated it over and over, his voice hoarse and heavily nasal. Nathan arranged for security to turn him away. Instead, he tried to rush in like a madman. Regardless, Ruth, you come out and see me, I know you're in there. Nathan hears the commotion and comes out of the house. A flicker of disgust in his eyes as he sees the wretched Frank. Get out, he said coldly. This is between me and her, stay out of it, Frank hissed with red eyes. Without saying a word, Nathan swung a punch that knocked Frank to the ground. Ruth, I was wrong. I'm begging you, surely you still have me in your heart, don't you? Frank asked me, undeterred, with a prayer in his eyes. Frank, don't flatter yourself, I owe all the hurt I've ever felt to you, I'm sick of you, get out. I looked at him coldly, without a trace of warmth in my eyes. I took Nathan's arm and looked over at Frank. His eyes were red and he prayed for me to forgive him. But I, for one, am no longer the naive and ignorant girl I was. Frank's broke. All his funds, even with the sale of all his family assets, would not be enough to compensate the partners whom he had personally pushed into the abyss. Sally posted what he did word for word, all over the internet. Phoenix man, serpentine ungrateful. A flood of abuse and accusations overwhelmed him. He's become a street rat, and everyone is screaming at him. I saw him fall from grace on the news without a ripple in my heart. He began to frequent the outside of the lakefront townhouse. Many times I saw him through the window. He was dressed in rags, his hair was disheveled, and he had the beard of a vagabond, watched blearily as Nathan and I talked and laughed in the garden. There was pain and remorse in his eyes. I knew that his comeuppance had come much later. I heard from Nathan about Frank. He went crazy and wandered the streets, telling everyone he had wronged his wife and begging for her forgiveness. Finally, he died on a cold winter night, his body frozen stiff. My attorney forwarded me a letter saying that Frank had written it while he was alive and that I must read it. I didn't open it and threw it right into the fireplace. The blazing fire that consumed the letter that carried remorse and despair. He doesn't know what I went through and how I survived the time he dumped me in Leafshire. He knows even less that I stopped loving him a long time ago. In my heart there's only Nathan. It was he who pulled me out of the abyss and gave me a new life. For the rest of my life, I just want to spend it with him. The sunlight flooded the room and I snuggled into Nathan's arms, feeling his warmth and affection. Ruth, you're finally free. Nathan stroked my hair gently, his voice low and gentle. I looked up into his deep eyes and a happy smile curled up at the corner of my mouth. Yeah, I'm free. My life has been nothing but sunshine ever since. Today's story is over. Thank you all for listening.